morning, everyone. My name is Rachel Carruthers, and I am the Events Manager here at the Portland Regional Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to Growth Basics for Business, a monthly breakfast seminar series which provides a forum to gain useful do-it-yourself workplace solutions and insightful actionable tips. Today is our 10th and our final event in the 2024-2025 season of Growth Basics for Business, and I want to thank Eaton Peabody for their continued support of this virtual event throughout the season. This morning's topic, Grow Social Sales, No Ads Required, is presented by Stephanie Miller, Lead Mentor at Score. Today, Stephanie will walk us through how to approach social media from the customer's point of view, and we'll learn how to use that insight to drive deeper engagement, stronger reach, and more revenue. This morning's practical hands-on session will help small business owners and marketing managers take the guesswork out of social sales and develop strategy to level up their social media game. Now, like all the Chamber's virtual events, today's presentation is free and is being recorded. It will be made available for free replay on the Chamber's website and YouTube page. To keep up to date on the Chamber's news and events, please visit our website, portlandregion.com. Check out our events page, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and sign up for our weekly email newsletter while you're there. Before we begin today's program, I just want to remind everyone that we're using a platform called StreamYard. This platform provides improved production and interactive elements that truly enhance our virtual events here at the Chamber. On that note, I'd like to point out as well that when you have questions for Stephanie this morning, you can type them in the YouTube chat throughout the presentation. Stephanie will answer them when appropriate during her training, and we've also reserved some time at the end of the presentation for a Q&A session with everyone here. That is, I suppose, the long way of saying please do interact with us this morning and ask questions via the YouTube chat. At this point, I'd also like to acknowledge our presenting sponsor of Growth Basics for Business, Eaton Peabody. For over 7 years now, Eaton Peabody has been the presenting sponsor of this series, and they've continued their support yet again this season. Eaton Peabody is a full-service, Maine-based law firm with nearly 50 attorneys, serving Maine clients from offices in Augusta, Bangor, Ellsworth, and Portland. They assist companies of all sizes in a variety of industries, so whether you're an established financial institution or a small business taking the first steps, they can help you with all your legal needs. To learn more about the services that they provide and the industries that they serve, please visit their website, eatonpeabody.com. Also, be sure to follow them on LinkedIn to stay up to date on legal updates and any future community events. Now, I don't want to take any more time away from our presenter this morning. Plus, I think everyone has heard plenty from me this season anyway. So with that, I'll hand things over to Stephanie. Stephanie, take it away.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you for your kind introduction. Hello, everyone, and happy Tuesday morning. It's like the sun is still out. We got that going for us. So let's get ready to sell some stuff through social. I am a lead mentor with SCORE. SCORE is a free service. It's a program of the federal SBA. We work with small businesses throughout the state. We would love to have you as a client. Check it out. There's tons of free content on our SCORE website. And we also provide mentors like myself with specific expertise to help you through the life of your business. So check that out if you're interested. As Rachel said, I am a lead mentor, but I'm also a marketing expert and have worked my whole career in marketing and technology companies and startup companies and all the way up to big global roles. So I'm happy to connect on LinkedIn, and you'll get this deck at the end of the session, so you can click on that QR code. So what we're going to talk about today is selling through social, how to invest in it, how to manage it, and how to think about the why of what you're doing and do it with purpose so that you will get better results. So hopefully that sounds good. I'm happy to take questions. I'll try to keep an eye on the comments. Otherwise, we'll grab them at the end. You know, when you think about selling, it's really not about you, right? It's not you and your product. It's really about the customer, right? So this is a great secret of marketing, and that is that marketing is not actually about the brand or the product. It's about the customer. And I think, this disturbing image of this guy on the phone, he's selling hard, right? But that's not actually how people like to buy, right? So before you get started with social selling or any kind of marketing, I encourage you to really think about the basics, right? So really understand who your target audience is and make sure that your product fits with that audience's need. If there's a disconnect either on the product side or on the audience side, you need to change one of them or you're not going to be successful. So your product solution, what you actually do and the problems you solve, has to match up with the customer. So when you're thinking about social, that means choose the right platform. Choose the platform where that audience hangs out already, right? And make sure that you can sort of line up where what again, the problems you solve and what your product does with the interests of that audience. And then, it's kind of table stakes to have some sort of social account, just like it's table stakes now to have a website and to have Google reviews and to to look professional, right? So you need to have social accounts and pay attention to them. Professionally update your profile, tell your story well, make sure that it's about the customers that you serve, have a link to your website, have some information about how they can buy from you. Just, kind of pay attention to those basics. And then on social, content is the currency. Content is how you generate sales through social. So you really want to be thinking about how the content is going to tell the story of the problems that you solve for your customers. So that's, take a minute and think that through and make sure that you have really solid understanding and answers for those kinds of issues. And then ultimately, when you're thinking about social selling, and especially unpaid social selling, there's sort of a mandate on social, and that is give to get. So you need to give value in order to get sales, right? So it's not just a broadcast channel where you send out posts and you tell people that they should buy from you, and you tell them that your product is great, and then all of a sudden the revenue comes in. It doesn't really work that way. It's social, right? So it's based on interaction. So when you start thinking about it that way, you think about relationships that you build through social, right? So what you do is you follow and share and comment on their content. You tag them in your posts, maybe they're customers or partners or influencers. You celebrate the things that they're doing. You invite their comments and interaction, right? You respond to people who comment and interact with your posts, right? And then you present content that helps tell the story and joins the conversation and invites people to interact with you. That's the social part. It's the connection part. And then what other people are going to do for you now that you're out there and you're part of the community and part of the messaging, they're going to follow, share your content, and they're going to tag you on their posts, and they're going to form impressions about the value that you create in the marketplace, right? And ultimately, they will click on things to download or to buy or to visit your website. So again, it takes a little time and it takes some commitment to build that, but it's not just you showing up and broadcasting things and being buy for me, buy for me. Nobody's going to follow that. Nobody's going to be interested in that. What they're interested in is the content that tells a story and helps them. Now you think about that, it's like, oh gosh, well, I don't know if I really have time or the interest or the personality to be good at relationships. Maybe I should just pay for traffic. Maybe I should just buy ads, right? Well, you could do that, and there are definitely good reasons to pay for social traffic. But really what I think is that ultimately you want to invest in organic, and organic is non-paid, right? So organic means it just happens naturally without you paying money for it. You want to invest in organic because that's what builds long-term relationships, long-term value customers, long-term repeat customers, customers who share your content, customers who tell others about your products, right? So those relationships on social are pure gold, and you really want to invest in building those because you can't buy that. You just can't buy that. You have to experience those kinds of things other than purchasing it. So if you have a purely transactional business, 100% transactional, maybe doing paid all by itself is fine. But actually, I think creating a strategy for organic, for non-paid, which is about engaging and educating and inspiring people to connect with your content, right? That can be supported by paid, because then paid can help give broader reach to your content. Like if nobody sees it for the first time, they can't interact with it, right? So paid can help with that, right? It can actually help accelerate and be a little bit faster, right? But again, you pay in time for organic. It's not free in the sense that you don't have to put any effort in. You have to put quite a bit of effort in, and you need some expertise, and you need to create that content that makes sense. And then on the paid side, you pay in dollars and money, right? So you're going to want to balance those two things out. What the results are is that with organic, you're going to get authentic connections, right? It's kind of a superpower of a smaller, lean organization, which many businesses here in Maine are. And then, of course, the organic keeps working over the long term because you're building a relationship. Right now, these people are seeing you regularly, and they're interested in your business, right? For ads, I think that interest sometimes expires when the money runs out, and it takes a pretty big commitment to keep it going. So people ask me all the time, my SCORE clients ask me, how much do I need to spend, right? And so the minimum I think you need to spend is somewhere between $300 a month and $1,000 a month. So let me say that again. The minimum you need to spend to make a difference on social is between $300 a month and $1,000 a month. Now, some of you may be doing great work for $50 a month, and I applaud you, and I think that's awesome. Now, there may be a really niche audience that you can reach on Facebook, and you can do it for $100 a month. Maybe, right? But to get to that point and to find that audience and to really get it honed down, you need a commitment. So you need to be ready to spend that kind of money over at least a 6 to 8 month period in order to get return on your paid ads. It is really easy to spend a lot of money on Facebook and get nothing, no phone calls, no clicks, no engagements, nothing. And Meta and Pinterest and LinkedIn are in the business of convincing you that they're going to grow your business. So, you just be really cautious about that. I think there is one really great use of paid social, and that is to build the reach, to invite people to join your email list, and then you can follow up and nurture them. So it's not just like a one-time, pitching them to buy something. That's a big leap. They go from not knowing anything about your business to buying your product. Sure, that can happen, right? I mean, maybe if you're like not very, you're an impulse buy, right? Like you're something that people don't need to think about before they buy. But I think most people want to understand the brand. They want to understand the quality, especially on social, right? Because there's so much stuff out there. So I think that's enough about paid and why it works and where it doesn't work, because we really want to focus attention on non-paid. But I would just say last is that if you are going to invest in paid social, I really strongly recommend that you get some advice. So take a SCORE webinar, take a chamber webinar, go to an event, hear a speaker on it, or hire someone. It's worth it. It's worth it. If it's not your area of expertise, it can be really confusing. And by the time you learn it, you'll have invested so much time and be so frustrated that it would have been easier for you just to pay somebody who knows what they're doing. So anyway, that's my final word on that. So if you want to invest in long-term relationships over social, you need to do unpaid organic content, right? So first thing to do is make sure your profiles are up to date, and then research your competitors, research influencers, find out how your customers use social and follow them. Follow all those people, follow your competitors. They'll probably follow you, and that's cool. So make sure that you understand the different kinds of posts that exist, so that you can balance them in your calendar so that you can meet your revenue goals. We're going to talk a little bit about a content calendar and how that helps you. And then plan to track and measure. Don't just do it, right? Like have a goal and identify what it is that you'd like to get out of it, right? I mean, maybe your goal is unrealistic and you won't hit it, but at least you're going towards something. You're going towards some sort of North Star. And I would say you need to invest at least 20 to 40 minutes per week on a minimum level. So if you are the business owner or you are the marketing person, you're really not going to make a difference on organic if you don't have at least 40 minutes a week to spend on it. Because remember, you need to like and share other people's stuff, you need to check what your competitors are doing, and you need to create your own posts, get them out there and engage people with them, right? So there's kind of 3 actions. And then of course, at least once a month, you're going to need to look at some numbers and do some reports. So you need you need to make a commitment. This is not a 5-minute a day kind of thing. It's not the same thing as posting on a personal level. There are lots of types of social posts. Here's a couple of them. You'll probably have some combination of all of these when you do your organic outreach. I'm going to focus on the one about selling, just because we want to sell, right? So the purpose of those are to ask people to buy, and you'd be surprised how many businesses come and say, "Well, gee, social's not working because nobody's buying." Well, it's actually because you're not asking anyone to buy. You're not actually presenting anything for them to do, right? So if you want people to buy, you need to make it really clear what the next action is. Maybe it's download something about the product, and that's the first step. Or maybe it's purchase the thing right away as a gift, right? Maybe it's for an event like Father's Day or Christmas or something like that, right? So you want to make sure that you actually have a call to action, which is the ask, right? You're saying purchase now, or purchase this by Tuesday, or whatever it is that you want them to do. Sign up now. You have the proper hashtags, right? And then the kinds of selling posts would be a promotional offer, like you see this from retailers all the time. That's an easy example. It could be some sort of gift idea. It could be a way of packaging your products together. It could be a weekly product feature, right? So that might be interesting. So like every week you promote another one of your products, and it's just, it's just reminding people of the variety of stuff that you do, right? It could be some sort of competitive review, right? So comparing yours to competition, that might be interesting. And then the way that you measure it is from clicks and purchases, or clicks and downloads. And you're probably going to do this at least weekly. So we're going to look at these different kinds of posts, and you're going to figure out what's the right balance for my business, right? How am I going to balance the 8 or 9 posts I'm doing a month, or the 8 or 9 posts I'm doing a week, to do some around selling, some around inspiration, and some around education, and some around brand, right? How do you kind of figure out that balance and that mix? So while we're thinking about the types of posts, let's take a look at some examples, and maybe there's some ideas here that you can steal. So free content that solves a real problem for professionals is very, very popular on social, and it is a great way to make an introduction. So offer something of value, right? And people will come to your site to read your blog, or download your white paper, or get a checklist, watch a video, and hopefully you're smart and you capture their email address from that, so that you can then continue to nurture the relationship. Sometimes it takes more than one touch point for someone to purchase something, right? So think about that cycle throughout, right? Maybe you're asking them to make too much of a leap. They've never heard of your brand. They're not ready to buy yet, but they're interested in the problem that you solve, right? So talk about the problem that you solve. Talk about the many ways that your products can solve those problems, right? And then the next time they see something from you, or the next email that they get from you, maybe they're closer and ready to buy. So you use the follow-up email to nurture them once you've captured them through content on social. Instagram is, of course, a visual and very sensory platform. This is a great example. If you sell beautiful wooden boats, you have custom-made content for Instagram, right? Like very, very popular. And again, like it's one thing to show beautiful pictures of boats on the water. She gets lots of likes and shares, but really what she needs is people to call her, people to fill in the form on the website, right? So these are $40,000 and $50,000 boats. They're not going to be sold from a picture on Instagram, right? She needs to nurture that relationship. So she captures their attention, she gets them to follow, and then she uses a strong call to action to get people to start exploring what a custom boat for them might look like. And once she gets them on the phone, she's pretty good at selling everyone. So of course, food, animals, children, if you have those things in your product, definitely use them. They definitely generate likes. Again, here you have the challenge of translating interest into purchases, right? So again, include a call to action. Show how this product solves a specific problem, right? So if this beautiful lobster roll is available on Tuesdays, for Family Day, make sure that that's in there, and that you invite people to come on Tuesdays to your to your shop to purchase it, right? So you need to make sure that you follow through and have something on there. And I would encourage you to not worry about being perfect. Be authentic, be you, right? So don't worry about like, too many filters or having professional photography. Your smartphone is fine, and people want to see you and the brand and see what's happening at your location, at your shop or your workshop or your farm. Retail is definitely sometimes has an advantage because they have so many products, so they have lots of content, right? So if you're a retail establishment, featuring different products can be really powerful. So the product becomes the content. Again, be helpful. I can't emphasize enough how much those connections depend on people helping each other, right? People like to buy from people that they like, and they like people and businesses, they like brands that help them, right? So be helpful first. Don't go out and be like, buy, I'm better, this is great. Go out and say, I know you have this challenge, right? So I'm going to help you solve that challenge, and that's how you draw them in, right? So another great idea too is to encourage people to comment and share, and then that user-generated content becomes more content you can use on future posts. Again, you can use social to start a relationship, right? So Daily Stoic is a daily email about Stoicism, and he's basically using social to sell an email subscription, right? The other example from Dot Digital, they're encouraging people to come and sign up for their list, their email list, by telling them that October has a ton of events that are really interesting and things that you want to know. So again, they're being helpful in order to get an email subscriber. Especially for a small business, I think telling your origin story or some sort of anniversary story, that can be really powerful. Humanize your business if you can. Let people inside. They love to know how businesses work, especially the ones that they support. And again, you're building those relationships. Do you have to like hang out your dirty laundry for everyone? No, of course not. But tell that story in a compelling way. And then if you're lucky like SCORE, you have amazing clients and customers, and you can celebrate them, right? So here's just an example from what SCORE does. So I'm going to give you just 3 really quick. I know I'm probably a little slow on my presentation here, but let's go really quick through these rapid fire post strategies to kind of give you an idea of how to think about it. So everyone talks about short-term video. Everyone wants to do video. It definitely works. I will tell you that while it gets the highest engagement, people watch videos, it doesn't always get the highest response. So test it and see, does video really get you more response, more clicks, more sales, more downloads, right? And so if it doesn't, then you need to do more than just video, right? Maybe the video brings them in and it's part of that mix. It's part of the type of post that you do, right? But it's not everything that you do. And again, in some of these examples, people are fascinated. So you're the expert baker, you're the expert jewelry maker, but your customers are not, and they are fascinated by what you do. So don't underestimate just showing what it is that you do to produce your product, and people may be very interested. The second idea is around building community. In some ways, a smaller business has the advantage of being more human and more approachable. And I think there's a fallacy that small businesses have more time than big businesses. But if possible, if you can encourage people to interact with you and then answer them personally and keep up with that, that would be a really great advantage. So figuring out how to scale that is always a little tricky. But if people are commenting and liking your posts, like them back and comment on them. And that could be a really good strategy for you. And then the last idea is really thinking about partnerships. Don't go this alone, especially if you're a small business. One great way to build your reach is to share marketing with another person's list and have them share marketing back with you, right? So really think about what partners make sense for your business, and then work out some sort of shared comments and likes and all that stuff. If you are a maker and you're selling wholesale to a bunch of retailers, celebrate those retailers in your feed, right? Tag them, repost their stuff, celebrate them, and they will be more likely to promote your stuff when people come into the store or when they need a maker to feature. There's lots of things that always work in terms of social selling, right? So saying something unusual or unexpected, again, like don't struggle over that. Like just, be authentic, do your thing. Say thank you. It's amazing how well thank you posts do. So you don't want to over abuse that, but when you have a milestone or you have something to say for your customers, let them know. Recommending adjacent products. So if you have this product, you might like this product. If you have this dress, you might like this jacket. If you have this type of car, you might need this thing. If you have a Peloton, you might need this accessory. There's all kinds of adjacent products that you can sort of think about when you're doing your marketing, because people immediately understand Peloton or, Lexus or whatever, you know what I mean? You can do polls. I would recommend keeping them really relevant and not doing them just to do them or not making them silly, but keep them relevant to your business. You can share some inside information. Again, that could be how you make the jewelry or how you make the bread or, your grandmother's secret recipe, that kind of thing. So stuff that's not, competitive differentiator, but lets people kind of know the inside scoop. You can ask for feedback, you can ask for referrals, right? And then through it all, you just want to make sure that you have consistency of your brand and your tone, because you're building relationships here, right? So if your friend shows up every day with a totally different personality, you're not going to feel like you know that person, right? So same thing with a brand. You want to be consistent. Now, with all of this information, you're probably like, all right, that sounds really great, but I mean, I have 5 minutes extra every week, right? So what can I do to accelerate this? Well, one thing is to plan ahead. And so I recommend taking a look at this content calendar. It's a template that I created for SCORE, but if there's lots of them out there, you can try somebody else's, or if this one doesn't work for you, then, don't struggle. But the idea is to organize upfront. So you figure out what are the themes for the year in terms of content that will drive people toward a purchase. What are my sales goals, right? Do I have sales goals? Do I have branding goals? Do I have a number of people that I want to reach? And then figure out what is the content that I can produce on a weekly or monthly basis and map it out. Now, do you have to write every post up front? No, you're doing the types of posts. So I want to promote my events, which happen every month. I want to promote sales, which happen every quarter or 3 times a year on a holiday. I want to promote seasonal stuff. I want to promote different product lines, right? I want to promote health and wellness and, an addiction-free lifestyle. Right? I made those up. But what is it that you're trying to do thematically? Think about it throughout the year. Now, why does that help you, right? It helps you because you don't have to think about it every time you sit down to write a post, right? So if you have the calendar mapped out, and it's not a directive, it's not like if you don't do what's on the calendar, you're going to go out of business, right? But it's a guide for you. And especially if you hire someone to do your social posts for you, it's a way for you to keep connected with that person and to make sure that they're on track and you're on track, right? So you're mapping out your content for the next quarter or for the next year, and you're thinking about the imagery and the video up front. You stop stressing out about, what am I going to post this week? What's going on? So many of my clients, it gets to be Wednesday and they're like, oh my gosh, I haven't done any social posts. I got to scramble. And they stress. So they waste that precious 40 minutes that they have every week just wondering what they should do and trying to think of ideas. So take a step back, be a little more planful, and it would make you so much more efficient. It will also help you balance the content, right? So remember, we talked about there's different kinds of posts. If you're doing only selling posts all the time, people are less interested in you, right? Because you're all about yourself. You're all, people want to watch and listen and learn and read about businesses that are helping them, right? So you have to balance your sell messages with inspiration messages and education and being helpful and, saying thank you, right? So it helps you balance that out because you're kind of keeping track of what you're doing and you're planning ahead. How many times have you thought, oh my gosh, Father's Day, that would have been such a good idea to do this or that around it. And it's like, oh, well, it was last Saturday or last Sunday. So you know what I mean? Like it's gone, like you missed that opportunity. But if you think about it up front, you can be planful about that. Also helps you get a lot of imagery up front, right? It can be a cost saving. Anyway, I'm a huge fan of the calendar. A little bit of planning goes a long, long way. You're probably wondering if if AI can help you, and yes, it can. It can certainly help you come up with posts once you give it a theme. I think if you go out to AI and you say, what should I post? It's going to give you information that other people have posted, right? Because that's what it knows. It only knows what exists, right? But if you go to it and say, this is what I'm trying to achieve, and this is what makes my business special, right? Then you can create a prompt like this, and it will give you ideas. You can steal this prompt if you want, or you can write your own, kind of following the directions in those blue arrows. And then what it delivered, for me, this is only partially what it delivered. It gave me like 100 ideas, but it said, okay, great. Based on those themes, here are some specific posts around the types of themes that you mentioned around positive parenting. And some of these are really good, and they're things I wouldn't have thought of myself. So I do think you can use AI to help you come up with ideas. You could also use it to write your posts. I think that usually shows. So I recommend that you have a human in that somewhere, right? Either editing or you write it first and then ask AI to give you maybe 3 versions of it and see if you like one of those versions, or you can steal ideas to make it better. I see the note there that the QR code doesn't work, and I'll put the links in after. So you want to stay away from these kinds of things, right? Like, don't be uncivil, don't be smarmy, don't push your sales agenda too hard. Don't target the wrong audience. Don't be generic. Don't ignore the numbers. Don't ignore the analytics and the ROI, right? Be conscious of why you're doing what you're doing and be purposeful. And then the things that you want to sort of focus on are success metrics that show growth towards your goals, right? So you have a number of fans and followers now, right? And so you want to grow that to a certain number, because you know that people only buy X number of times a year, or it takes 10 impressions or 10 outreaches or 10 touch points in order to get someone to purchase from you. So you need to reach them 10 times in a certain period in order for them to even wake up and decide that they want to do this, right? If you're a coach or some sort of guide, it can take a lot longer than that, right? People can be following you for years before they decide to hire you as a coach. Still worth doing, but it just takes a while. You want to make sure that you have that in mind. So think about the total number or percentage of new social followers, right? I'm a big fan of email. I think email is a really cost-efficient way to keep in touch with people and nurture them, can be much more successful than social. And so using your social to get email addresses and subscribers is a really great strategy. So perhaps one of your goals is to increase your email subscriber list. And then, of course, you have to send emails, right, once a month or once a quarter at least. You also want to think about engagement. So that's all the likes and the shares and the comments. So if you're putting out a lot of content that no one's interacting with, then again, you might be a disconnect between the audience, right, and your products. So you can shift the way that the content looks and feels. You can start to target a different kind of audience. Maybe you use some paid to kind of figure out where those audiences are. Maybe you go to some events and you talk to people and you get their advice on the kinds of headspace that they need to be in to think about your product, or maybe there's a different use for your product that you're not aware of. So looking at the percentage of engagement is really important. And then, of course, again, that total number. So you're looking at growth, and then you're just looking at the total number. Is this total number of fans and followers enough to help me generate enough revenue to keep myself profitable every year, right? That's the kind of stuff you're looking at. And then, of course, when it comes to sales, you want to look at total dollars. It's sometimes hard to track if someone saw something on social and then 3 days later they show up in your store or they go to your website. But to the extent that you can, track the contribution that social is making. Look at the average order size. So are new customers buying small things, but then if you nurture them through email, their second purchase is higher? I would say that's a success. And then you're looking at things like new customers or new leads for your sales team, right? So those are the kinds of things that will show that your social commitment and your social content is successful. So really, when it comes to it, social is about those connections. It's about relationships. It's about give to get, right? And it's your online reputation. In some ways, it's table stakes. Like, you have to have some sort of social account and you need to be posting on a regular basis. But if you really want to get it to work for you and to sell, then you really need to think about building new connections and a stronger brand, and eventually it'll move to revenue. So organic can be a little slow, right? But once it starts to take off, you'll really see results. So I encourage you to kind of stick with it and give it 6 months or so to make sure that it really is working. If you need immediate revenue, organic is not going to be the way to do it, because it takes a while. Relationships take work. And then at the end of the day, and always, just remember that marketing is all about the customer. So you have to know what they want. It's not necessarily about what you want or what you think. It's about what they want and what customers really want in their lives, and to make their lives better. So market to others as they would like to be marketed to, and that will keep you straight. So hopefully that is helpful. I'm happy to take questions. I think Rachel will come back and lead us through that. And I will put the URLs in the chat, and we'll also make sure that we get them at the follow-up email.
Stephanie, thank you. I was just saying to Riley, who's backstage, no one gets to see Riley during our Growth Basics series, but he's running the show, that I was just like, so obviously you've presented on this topic before because you know how to address these things in such a clear and concise manner, and give us really clear and easy to use tools. And it looks like we've already got some questions coming in, so I will stop talking. But let's see. We have Brian asking, any tips for mastering the current LinkedIn algorithm? Oh,
that is such a great question.
Yeah.
Good job, Brian. Yeah, I think, well, first of all, the algorithms change all the time, right? So you do need to be paying attention and kind of seeing what works, and things that worked even last month or last year may not work again. So again, like the content calendar kind of helps you keep track of that, of what is working. Specifically for LinkedIn, I mean, my understanding is that they are trying to orient themselves more towards paid, and so they don't actually send your content to your followers the way that they used to. So unless you are paying, especially if you have a business account, that can be really tricky. And for your personal account, I think what I see happening is that there seems to be a delay. Like, they'll send it to partial of my list. If the post does well with the partial, in terms of engagement, right? So likes and comments and that kind of stuff, then they'll send it to the rest, and I'll get like the second flurry of interest on a post that I sent a week ago. So I don't know, Brian, if that's what your experience is, but it's I think you just need to keep aware of what it is, and try to adjust your content. But at the end of the day, being interesting, being helpful, those things still work, right? So maybe posting fewer could be a good strategy, and having them be more significant, and then reposting the same content with a different sort of cover in another week can sometimes boost it. So I hope that helps you.
That's a good point. Let's see. Looks like we've got another one here from R. Legier Design. Is any one platform the best to focus on or start your social media push if you haven't prioritized it prior to this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it depends on, like everything in marketing, it depends. It really depends on your audience, right? So if you are a restaurant, Instagram might be the place to start, because that's sort of the platform of food. If you're targeting moms, Facebook might still be the place you want to be. If you have sort of a DIY or a a craft kind of a thing, maybe Pinterest is where you want to start. So I would go back to those basics and figure out where is your audience. But I love this suggestion because if you're just starting out, trying to do well on 4 platforms at once when you were doing none is probably too much, right? It's probably going to be hard unless that's going to be 100% of your job. So focus on the one that you think is where your audience is already hanging out. Now, how do you know that? Go to the platform, right? And search on the kinds of things that you do. See what comes up. Is there a ton of content already? Then that might be a good endorsement. Do you, when you go into the back end, can you see the kinds of people who are posted there? Google it. Google who you're trying to reach and say, which platform is best? Ask ChatGPT, get some advice, talk to an expert about the different kinds of platforms. There's tons of stuff published about which social platform is right for which audience. So do a little research and figure that out, and then test it. Test out some stuff. And I think just because your competitors are somewhere doesn't necessarily mean that they're making money there, but that can also be a good guide.
And now, selfishly, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Wonder if you can help us, or I don't want to say diagnose, but so the approach that our social media approach has been, because we serve over 1,400 members here at the Chamber. Mm-hmm. And a big benefit of being a Chamber member is having that interactivity, and that, with the Chamber, and sharing either social media posts or creating posts devoted to certain member events. Mm-hmm. In order to not limit the traffic, but prioritize and streamline things a little bit, so that we're not overloading, right, our followers with all this information to the point of them just maybe not even looking anymore. We have, I believe, Stella Pineda, who's our executive assistant and is the brains behind our social media approach. She has taken the approach of our LinkedIn channels are devoted completely to just Chamber events. Now, produced any announcements, it's just Chamber news, Chamber events. We interact with all of our members on LinkedIn, but we do not post about other member events on there. And she devotes Facebook and Instagram to our members, as well as adding in some of our events on those platforms too. We've seen it work. It has been working for us, mm-hmm. but wanted to get your perspective on that, as you are a subject matter expert. And I didn't want to miss this opportunity to
generous of you to share kind of that strategy. I think it makes sense to have a purpose for each platform, right? So if LinkedIn is the platform of professionals, and a lot of your events are about professional development and the industry and growing your career and things so that makes sense, right? Because that's what people are doing on LinkedIn anyway, right? Mm-hmm. So that makes sense. I think that, a lot of companies will use, LinkedIn and maybe X for, kind of company announcements and sort of the business side of things. And then they'll use the meta platforms for the human side of things. So maybe they have an Instagram channel for recruiting, particularly for younger people. And then they'll use Facebook to celebrate their employees, that kind of thing. So you're doing kind of a similar thing where you're assigning a role in the storytelling to each of the platforms. So I think that's super smart. I do think that part of what you want to accomplish, though, is you want to tell a whole story in each place, right? And so while LinkedIn might be the primary place where you promote all your events, having other things in there around celebrating your customers or your members, celebrating your members, celebrating the success of your members, talking about, issues around Greater Portland and Maine business, right? Mm-hmm. I think could be really cool, and it would be amazing to do things like interviews of members and then even staff, sort of a get to know you kind of thing. And that could be across channels as well. And then just give them different looks, right? So events always have, I'm making this up, always have a blue something something border, right? Whereas the features on people come with like a circular image of the person, and they, you know what I mean? Like you just give them a different look so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming, but it's still on brand to the chamber. So I think you can do more than one thing in each platform, but you do want to be thinking about it. And yeah, like I think, if you guys, check out the content calendar and try it and say, I'd love your feedback to see, because you have an interesting challenge to kind of map out all those things. And you have 1,400 members, which is a very diverse set of interests. Like not everybody's looking for the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that's probably not the issue. That's a great problem to have, right?
Yeah.
We serve so many diverse industries that, we're doing almost, like what you have suggested throughout your presentation, like test things out, see what sticks and see what works. And I really like your suggestion about coming up with these templates to brand each category of postings. Riley, who's our digital marketing strategist, anything that you see that goes out in our newsletter or on screen at our events, that's his work. And he definitely has templates that he works with that fit the branding of each event. And it's worked really well. And people know, okay, if I'm walking into Kegs and Issues, that it's, it's the same looking content every time. So
yeah, I think that's smart. I think that's a
really
good idea.
Advice. Thank you.
I
will, fortunately for everyone here this morning, this is being recorded. So this will be available for us all to refer back to, and I will be sharing it with some colleagues, and then also some members who I knew wanted to attend today but couldn't.
So one thing I think, I would love to hear. I would love to hear if anybody that's here has some tips on how they are getting higher sales through the language that they use in their posts, right? So one of the things I work with a lot of my SCORE clients on is, how do I write that call to action, or how do I? So I think the emphasis on this session was around selling. And so if anybody's finding some language that really works in terms of driving clicks and stuff like that. And so it's tricky, right? So like in Instagram, you can't put a link in, right? You either have to put it in the comment, or you have to have it in your profile, or you have to have an Instagram shop, right? So that, each platform has its own quirks, right? And so like on Instagram, you almost have to like drive people to ask them to go to your website in order to find the thing, right? And then they have to be able to find the product that you're promoting. So that can be tricky, right? But I find that, using social to encourage people to take the next step. And that requires you to really understand how people buy what it is you're selling. So, if it's retail, maybe there's a lot of impulse buys, but if it's retail, it could also be that they're looking for organic fabrics, or they're looking for organic food, or they're looking for a particular style, or something, something that has a certain element or component, right? So you're celebrating those things. So they're coming to check out how you use those elements in your products, right? And then you're encouraging a sale, right? So you can see how social doesn't sit by itself, right? It's not like social can be successful all by itself. Social relies on you having a website that can convert. It relies on you having, consistent messaging. It relies on you being able to purchase easily and quickly, right? So if that's, come to our farm, or go to this shop, or go to these 3 retail locations, or come online, all of those things matter to the entire cycle, right? So it does take some testing. And one of the things I find really helpful is to purposefully go out and try to find examples of social posts that are selling, right? I mean, it doesn't take long, just go through your feed, right? Yeah. pick up on some of the language that they use and then test that and see if that works for you as well. I think there's a real art to selling on social, and it's really around that language. And again, I'll just say again that if all you're doing is selling on social, you're probably not going to be as successful as if you mix it up a little bit, right? So if you're doing 3 posts a week, maybe 2 of them are selling and 1 of them is inspiration or education, right? And then the next week, 1 is selling and 2 are inspiration or education, right? And you just kind of keep mixing it up so that you, again, do that give to get kind of a cadence.
So, as we're waiting for, anyone to share their experience of what has worked, we live in what you're presenting on is oftentimes hard to keep up with because it is ever changing and developing. Social media has grown in the last, 10 years, just exponentially. I'd be curious to know, have you utilized AI in any of your social media approaches?
Yes. And so I'm a fan of humans and a fan of sort of, the sort of offline brainstorming and creativity that comes from human beings. However, I do use AI all the time, and I use it to save time and to provide feedback. Even the free tools like ChatGPT and Gemini are so much more improved now than they were in December, right? And they really can be thought partners with you. So I encourage you to not go to AI and just say, what should I do? Because again, AI only knows what's out there, right? They only know what exists. And your business is unique. Your business is unique to you. It's unique to Maine. It's unique to all of your employees and everything that you're doing and all that love and care. And so what exists in the world is never going to tell you what you should do, right? But if you go and you say, I have this idea, literally you're typing this into Gemini or ChatGPT. I have this idea, and I would like some ideas on how to present a product launch for a small business in Maine that focuses on, XYZ and has a target audience of XYZ. And what I'd really like to do, and then give it your goal. What I'd really like to do is get all of my existing customers to purchase this. Or what I'd really like to do is introduce a whole new audience to our products. I really think this could resonate with, I don't know, young college students or something, right? People who don't buy from me today. And throw that out and then say specifically for AI what it is that you want it to do. Give me 3 ideas. Give me 10 tips on how I can not screw this up. You know what I mean? Ask it for something specific, and then it'll come back. And some of it's going to be great, and some of it you're going to be like, all right, this is total BS. This is nonsense. And so you can go back and you can say, can you clarify point number 2? And I find that, again, the evolution of these tools, they're becoming more and more human. They'll come back and apologize and be like, you're right, that wasn't correct. And then they'll tell you something else. So you really have to be engaged with it. And it's almost like having a really super smart intern, right? It has all the vast knowledge of the world at its fingertips, really good at researching and pulling that forward, but it's not an experienced business person. You know what I mean? It's kind of like giving you all this knowledge in the frame of a very immature business mind, right? So you just have to be careful with it. And I think that people can tell. I think that people can tell that it's not authentic to you. And so if you're using it, maybe you're getting some results, but I just don't think that's how you differentiate yourself.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. I have used it in the same sense that it helps me kind of, when I'm stuck, when I'm feeling stuck, or my time is short and I really need to get my brain pumping a little bit and think about things differently. It helps to spark a thought, and then further past that, I step back from it. I don't want to engage too much.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a fan of it. I think, we're all going to be, it's all going to be, chips and robots and all that sometime soon, right? But it's, I do think it's helpful. And I think that if you're not using it, you're missing out, right? But I think you want to be purposeful. And again, there's a ton of information out there. And, the tools themselves can help you use the tool. It's like this incredible loop, right? But again, it's like having someone who is, brilliant with everything that exists in the world, but isn't actually thinking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's why we can always suss it out.
Yes. It's a little scary. Right? No, there's no reason to fear AI. AI is a great tool. But I guess I just want to kind of turn it back to you, Stephanie. Any final thoughts, or like if you were to step back, if say you were sitting down with someone for the first time and they were just so frustrated by their social media. They hadn't gotten any lift or any traction with their social media approach, and they were feeling lost. Maybe they're a solo entrepreneur, so it's really just them behind the platforms, which is pretty common. What is one bit of advice that you would give them?
Yeah, and well, first I would say you're not alone, right? Because I mean, almost 100% of my SCORE clients feel that way. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's really, and many of us do too, right? That are even marketing people feel like, oh my gosh, like I'm trying these things and it's just not resonating. It's hard. It's hard because it's ever changing. And remember that people they're not seeing your profile necessarily. They're not going to your feed and seeing like, oh, did she do 3 posts this month? And, do they have education and inspiration? No, they're looking at you, as they're thumbing through on their phone. They're distracted by a million other things. And, there's like a lot of competition for their attention when they're on social, right? Very few people are really paying attention, first of all, and then you're just in their feed, right? So part of the trick is to be present, right? And to kind of stand out and be unique. And that's why I keep emphasizing, don't overthink it. Just be authentic. Be you in your business, which is a wonderful thing. And tell people about that, right? And so if every post is really, really precious to you, I think it's going to be hard for you to see a return on your time, right? Because you're spending so much time making every single post so perfect that it's gone in a flash, right? Yeah. So I'm not saying be sloppy, be professional and make it look good, but don't overthink it, right? And again, so much of what everyone does, everyone on this call and everyone in business, so much of what we do in business is a mystery to people outside our businesses. But because we do it every day, we don't think it's that interesting. We don't think it's that phenomenal. Like, of course, everyone who makes jewelry does this. Or of course, everyone who bakes does this. Everyone who creates textiles does this. But the buyer doesn't necessarily know that. And that's part of the story, and that your approach and your uniqueness about how you bring that to market, which quite frankly is why you're in business. If you were doing what everybody else does, you would just be a broker. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't be adding value to the chain, right? I mean, brokers add value, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like you're creating something unique here. So celebrate that. Anyway, so I would say take a step back, think about what makes you really, really unique, make sure that you're targeting the right audience, and then tell your story with your natural, personality. And I think that's the key to being successful.
Thank you, Stephanie. I know that's a hard question to answer. Yeah. Didn't mean to put you on the spot there.
That's okay.
You're good. Such a wealth of knowledge, and I cannot thank you enough for today's presentation, taking the time to sit with us this morning. And thank you also for answering all of mine and everyone else's questions in the chat just so thoroughly. And I, of course, would be remiss if I didn't thank my fellow chamber employee, my colleague, Riley Legier, our digital marketing strategist here at the chamber, for helping to produce yet another successful event. And last but certainly not least, thank you again to everyone here with us this morning for watching. If you're interested in continuing the conversation with Stephanie and learning more, be sure to check your email for a follow-up message with links to additional resources. Those links that were not working in the chat are in Stephanie's presentation today. That QR code, we'll make sure that that is sent along in that follow-up message as well. And then, of course, I want to give another shout out to our sponsor, Eaton Peabody, for their support of this series. And the Eaton Peabody Growth Basics for Business series is typically held on the third Tuesday of each month, September through June. Keep your eyes peeled for the announcements beginning in August about the start of next season's programming in September. That being said, if you're interested in presenting at Growth Basics for Business or know of an industry professional who may be interested, please visit our website, portlandregion.com, to submit an event proposal. Any questions, our team's direct contact information can be found there as well. So with that, thank you again for attending this morning. We'll see you in September here on Growth Basics for Business. Have a lovely summer, everyone.